you ever get that feeling that there's some kind of hidden order to the world? Like a secret mathematical rhythm humming just beneath the surface of everything? Well, turns out there is. And I promise, once you see it, you're going to start noticing it everywhere. So let's dive right in. Okay, so it all starts with a super simple observation. Just picture this. You're at the hardware store, right? You're buying those little numbers for your new mailbox or maybe your front door. You look at the display and you notice something kind of weird. Yeah, the bins for the number 1, 2, and 3, they're almost totally empty. But the 7s, 8s, and 9s, they're completely full, so what gives? Did the store manager just mess up the order in a big way, or is there something deeper going on? Let me tell you, this is not a coincidence. It's actually a clue to a really powerful mathematical law. And that clue? Well, it leads us to this fascinating thing called Benford's Law. Now, it's a totally counterintuitive idea that, believe it or not, kind of governs the numbers all around us. We're talking everything from house addresses and the links of rivers to stock prices and big financial reports. Okay, so what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, Benford's Law basically says that in a whole bunch of real-world sets of numbers, that first digit isn't random at all. Nope. Instead, there's this massive bias towards the smaller numbers. And wow, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? I mean, look at that steep drop-off. The number 1 pops up as the first digit about a third of the time. A third. But by the time you get all the way over to the number 9, its chance of being the first digit is less than 5%. It's just this beautiful, perfect logarithmic curve. And this table, this gives us the actual hard numbers. I mean, just look at it. This isn't just a slight lean, it's a total landslide. The number 1 is the first digit over 30% of the time. And the number 9, it barely even shows up at under 5%. That's what, more than 6 times less likely? It's this incredibly consistent, predictable pattern that you find in data sets all over the world. And this isn't some new discovery either. We're going all the way back to 1881. An astronomer, Simon Newcomb, noticed that the first few pages of his logarithm books were way more worn out than the back pages. But it was a physicist, Frank Benford, who, 50 years later, really dug in, formalized the whole thing, and, well, gave it his name. It's a classic case of what they call Stigler's Law, which hilariously states that no scientific discovery is named after its original discoverer. Okay, so we know who found it, but the really big question, the fascinating part, is why does it work? Why this crazy bias towards the small numbers? Well, the answer isn't just some weird statistical quirk. It's actually rooted in the fundamental way that things grow. The secret ingredient here is something called a logarithmic scale. And this breaks it down perfectly. Think about it this way. For a company's revenue to go from 1 million to 2 million, it has to double. That's a 100% increase. But to get from 8 million to 9 million, it only needs to grow by about 12.5%. So it makes sense, right? Numbers just spend way more time with a 1 as their first digit before they finally make the jump to 2. It's a much longer journey. But here's where it gets really interesting. Benford's Law isn't just some neat mathematical party trick. It's an incredibly powerful tool with some very, very serious applications, especially when it comes to catching people who are trying to lie. This is where it gets really cool. See, when most people try to make up numbers like to fake an expense report, what do? They try to make them look random and evenly distributed. But in doing that, they create data that doesn't follow Benford's Law, and that's the tell. So forensic accountants use this to sniff out fraud. I mean, this was one of the tools that helped investigators see something was fishy with the Enron scandal. Election analysts use it to look for weird patterns in vote counts, and scientists can even use it to see if someone faked their experimental data. It's amazing. In fact, this law is so solid, so well accepted, that when a set of numbers doesn't follow Benford's Law, that deviation has actually been used as evidence of fraud in U.S. courts. So we're not just talking about a neat theory here. This has real-world, serious legal consequences. All right, so just when you think you've got this all figured out, there's a twist, a little wrinkle in the story. We've talked all about the digits 1 through 9, but what about the most famous number of them all? Yeah, where is 0 in all this? The first digit law seems to just completely ignore it. Is that just an oversight, or is there another layer to this whole mathematical mystery? And here it is. Here's the reveal. When it comes to the first digit, 0 is basically banned, right? We just don't write a number like 054, we write 54. The leading digit is 5. But here's the kicker. When you look at the second digit in a set of numbers, 0 isn't just there, it's the absolute star of the show. It becomes the single most common second digit of all. And this chart shows it perfectly. Once you get past that first digit, the one with that huge bias towards the number 1, 0 totally takes the lead. It shows up about 12% of the time. And it makes sense when you think about it. As numbers grow, they're constantly hitting multiples of 10, right? You hit 20, 30, 40, 110, 120, and all those bring 0 right into that second spot. So, what's the big takeaway here? What should we remember from all this? Benford's Law is this powerful reminder that there are hidden patterns pretty much everywhere. But, and this is important, to use it the right way, you absolutely have to understand where it doesn't work. Yeah, this law doesn't work on just any old set of numbers. It needs data that covers a big range, spanning several orders of magnitude. So it's not going to work for stuff with a really tight range, like, say, the heights of people, or on numbers that are just assigned, like phone numbers or zip codes. And it definitely won't work on lottery numbers. I mean, if it did, the lottery would be rigged and we'd all be millionaires, right? And all of this really brings us right back to where we started with Simon Newcomb and his simple but really profound observation way back in 1881. The numbers that describe our world, they're just not as random as we think they are. There's an underlying logic, this predictable imbalance that shapes pretty much all the data of our lives.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Benford's Law really gives us a new lens to see the world through. It proves that these hidden mathematical structures are all around us, influencing everything from which numbers are sold out at the hardware store to major legal battles. So the real question I'll leave you with is this: what other invisible patterns are out there shaping your world right now?